Hello, everyone. Today is February 23rd, 2025, and it's early in the morning. It's a quarter after 5. Story time, people. Um, this is a true story, and I've told this before. Um, I knew a dude, and his name was Scott, and I met him around 1993, back in the back in the day. He was and he was also a rock and roll man. He was in a band, and we played shows together. Um, his band and my band on the same bill, that is. And so this was around 93, 94, 95. And then around the end of the 90s or early aughts, I heard that this dude died. And a lot of people were like talking about it. And, like people went to his funeral and things like that. And it was a real sad thing. And I remember talking about his death with people. Uh, and then about 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I discovered that he's alive. Um, this can be attributed to the phenomenon known as the Mandela effect. Reporting this. Now, I know people who own a local business here in Albuquerque, and they told me that a dude went in there one day, and he's a regular customer for years. He went in there one day crying with tears, and it was because his father had passed away. Then they saw him, same dude, like a month later, and they asked him how he's doing, and he said he's fine. He's on his way to the hospital to visit his father. Um, this is being reported all over the world. It's a very interesting phenomenon. And before I continue talking about what I think could be happening there, I just want to say that this dude Scott was a good guy, and I was really sad when he died. So it's pretty cool that he's not dead. But there's two other things that happened with this dude that I thought were weird. Okay. When I first met him in like 1993, it could have been early 94, in fact. He asked me about my television set because back then I was living in an apartment. It was a well known apartment, a party house, and a place where artists and people gathered. And this apartment had a shag carpet from the 70s still, and rust colored curtains striped with orange from the 70s. Orange rusts with dark rust with brown. Yeah. Anyway, it was fitting. Dr. E. Vales is here. Morning. Good to see you. So it was fitting in this apartment that I had a television from the 70s in that apartment, and it was my family's family TV from the 70s, one of those gigantic console TVs where the screen is encased in wood and the thing is big and heavy. And totally out of style by the time I moved out of the house in 89. Here's the thing. When I first met this dude, Scott, probably in early 94, one of the first things he said to me was, "Hey, man, you still have that cool TV? The big TV?" And he described it, and he like had been in my apartment, but he had never been in my apartment. And I know that I was wasted a lot of times in those years, like we all were. He was such a unique looking dude. Tall, bleach blonde, Buddy Holly glasses, leather jacket. Didn't look like anyone else in Albuquerque at that time. He stood out. There's no way that dude was in my home. And plus, he was like with another circle of friends, kind of like a grunge. There was like a grunge circle of artists at the time. And then there was my sort of circle of artists, which were a bit more like early punk type lovers. This is back when social lines were drawn oftentimes by the music you listened to, you know, when we were young. Um, there's no way this dude was ever in my home, but there he was asking me about my TV set. So, yeah, one of these days I might try to get in touch with him. Okay, the third weird thing that happened to him, and I'll make this fast. One day, a girlfriend and I were hanging out at the Route 66 diner in Albuquerque. And it's on Route 66 because the classic Route 66 highway cut right through Albuquerque. And while it was in Albuquerque, it was called Central Avenue. And Central Avenue was like the strip, like a famous street, if you will. Well, that's because it's Route 66. Excuse me. So my friend Christine and I were hanging out in there at Route 66 Diner, and we were about to get our check. I think we had just gotten our check. Scott walks in. I wasn't expecting to see him. We say hello. He joins us and he starts talking nonstop for 45 minutes. And you should have seen the last few minutes. Um, I don't think it was a full 45 minutes. It was probably closer to 25 or 30. It was a long, way too long for someone to be talking nonstop. Weird, very weird. And he was talking and going on and on about everything and nothing. And Christine and I are looking at each other and we're laughing. Christine was visiting from Denver, so she wasn't really used to Albuquerque craziness. And he wouldn't stop talking. And it's getting to the point where Christine and I are looking at each other and laughing right in front of him. And he's still talking. And then I sign for the check and we leave a tip. He's still talking. We actually get up and and in laughter we get up and walk towards the door. He follows us, still talking, and we go out to the car. He's still with us talking. I unlock the door and I open it for Christine. She goes in, she sits down in the passenger, and Scott's still talking. And then I go around and I open my door, the driver door, and I look at him and I kind of wave, and he's still talking about whatever he was talking about. And he didn't even say goodbye because he was still like in the middle of saying whatever he was saying. And that was crazy. That was crazy. I got in the car and we're sitting there and we're watching him walk up the sidewalk. And it almost seemed like he was still talking. But, that's weird behavior, kind of like malfunction robot behavior. And the fact that I had never seen him in my home and he had known what my house looked like. And then now this dying and then not ever having died thing. It really makes me think about the video that, the things that you were talking about, Call for Zero, uh, parallel earths, parallel realities, parallel lives. More and more, I'm beginning to think that's what's going on. And somehow I think that everybody has their own like world. And this has been talked about talked about before when we talk about the Mandela effect and how certain Mandela effects will affect one person but won't affect another, so to speak. Or it'll affect both people but at different times. You know, I noticed a lot of Mandela changes way back in the 70s and 80s, uh, where a lot of other people were reporting seeing these changes later, like around the year 2016. And of course, the years 2015, 2016, 2017, those were far out years. Um, I'm beginning to think, okay, and also not only the Mandela effect, but this idea of, or not the idea, but the fact that everyone seems to have their own sun and their own moon and their own set of stars, and it follows them wherever they go, you know? Yeah, it seems that everyone has their own sun, their own moon, their own set of stars. You could have one car driving down the highway. The kids in the back seat are telling mom and dad or whoever, "Mom, Dad, the moon is following us." And then on the same highway going the other direction, the opposite direction, there's another family, another set of kids saying the same exact thing. And it's incredible. It's an incredible phenomenon. And it shows that everyone has their own earth, their own world. And maybe that's what's going on with this business of doppelgangers and people who have died, and years later it turns out they never died. So what's that memory in your mind? What is that? It could have something to do with the fact that I think this physical earth seems to be like some kind of a mishmash compilation earth of everybody's lives. Bleeding into one another. It's a trip. How's everybody doing? How's everyone doing? Is it raining anywhere? JJ, good to see you, man. It's not raining in Albuquerque. Let's see. The second thing I want to talk about briefly, just briefly, sobriety. Yesterday, I made a quick video celebrating my 3rd year of sobriety. The last time I took alcohol was February 22nd, 2022, and it feels pretty good. I feel like I'm slowly getting strength back. Waking up in the morning is not as nightmarish as it was before. It was real bad when I was drinking, and then it was real bad still for a couple of years after. But nowadays, I'm starting to wake up a bit stronger, and every day is a bit brighter, a bit better. It's pretty cool. I wanted to say to people out there, not just in the chat, but people who watch later, if you're going through it, it's a hell of a thing. And, in life, I just say, keep on keeping on. Keep on keeping on. And if you happen to be wasted, still keep on keeping on. Keep on towards the promised land. Okay, that's our destiny. Our destiny is the promised land. It's God's kingdom. And just keep on keeping on. Okay, getting back to the topic, thoughts in our heads. Real quick, I want to discuss this. I've been thinking about this recently, and I recommended that video to you guys by the channel Solace Owl. Pretty good video, pretty articulate. And they talked about this idea that the thoughts in our heads come from two different sources: the the bright side and the dark side. And when you make yourself, when you're aware that these negative thoughts that you have, when you're beating yourself up, feeling like you're no good, like you fucked it up, you deserve suffering, all that. You know, you guys, if you've done a lot of sinning in your life, like I have, you probably should spend a good period of time beating yourself up once you realize that you fucked up. You know, you probably, speaking for myself, I spent many years beating myself up because of past sins that of mine. And I think I deserved that self-beating for a while, even for a long while, because I've made some mistakes, people. I've made mistakes. And so for a while, I beat myself up, when I realized. But there comes a point where where I realized that I was beating myself up too much, and it has to stop. And I also know that the people I sinned against would ultimately forgive me, and they wouldn't want me to spend my whole life beating myself up. That's nowhere. So at a certain point, you have to realize that if it's going too far and you're still, after all these years, beating yourself up, that's the devil. That's the devil fucking with your head. It's a stream of weirdness coming at you. And that's what happens when you're beating yourself up too much. I believe that. I believe it's the dark side. It's the dark energy, the dark force. How to combat that is to just recognize what it is, that it's not coming from you. And in your own way, you sort of just tell that energy to fuck off in your own way. So that's what it is. Once you're aware of it, it makes it easier to break the spell. Um, and it works. It works. Then your mind can get quiet, opening yourself up to your ideas and thoughts that come from God, from the bright energy. And what a thing it is, people. The other night I was talking about my hometown, Las Vegas, New Mexico, and the church that was built there in the 1800s that I went to church at when I was a child. And my people would not have built that thing. Uh, they would have been sensible and built a wooden shack type of church, like the one you see in the old TV show, Little House on the Prairie. You guys remember that show? Little House on the Prairie. There was a church house in that show that looks sensible. That's the kind of church house that people would have built. Hey, I never saw many episodes, but I remember the one where Michael Landon came in the church with green hair. He was laughed out of there. Oh, yeah. Barbara says, I'm my own worst enemy in the rear view mirror. JJ responds, oh my goodness. Yes, Barb. I used to self-sabotage myself. I felt like no one could ruin what I have going except for me. Laugh out loud. Yeah, totally. You guys. Again, if yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, it's really something. Once you acknowledge that this is what's happening and shut down those thoughts. Now that video that I recommended, they use the word plug that stream of negative thoughts, but I don't go for that. I say disintegrate the motherfucker, disintegrate that stream of thought coming at you, make it be non-existent, and that's it. What did one apple say to the other? Don't get saucy. What do you get hanging from apple trees? Sore arms. Okay. Okay. Let's see. All right. All right. We're going to call it a night. We're going to call it a night. But let me share a video with you guys before we leave. If it's cool with you, JJ, I'm going to play that Splash of Life. This is an instrumental created by Jared Jaguar himself. And I hope that's cool with JJ. I'm kind of looking at a comment in the comments. Yeah. Here goes nothing. Good night, everyone. Good morning, everyone.